I want to welcome everyone back to another episode of Soul Impact, How Music Saved Us. I'm your host, Wild Willie. Today with us, I got Ezekiel. I want to thank you, buddy, for taking the time out of your day and coming on and doing an interview with me.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm glad you answered. I'm real thankful for Podmatch. But I want. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you got going on?
So my name is Ezekiel Williams, also go by Zeke. I'm the host and producer of the Let's Got the podcast, where I started recording in 2019, so I'm releasing episodes in 2020. It's a podcast where I interview guests about their interests and their careers. So some episodes include talk about anime, speaking with authors and motivational speakers. And currently, you can find the podcast at letsgottapodcast.com and all major podcasting platforms and YouTube.
Right on. So a little bit about myself. Music has always been my saving grace. I had a pretty rough upbringing, a lot of abuse as a child. So it was my escape. So about 5 years ago, I got into the DJ business. Um, that has opened doors to run sound for bands. You know, so music is near and dear to me. So, is there a time in your life where music has brought you out of probably one of the darkest points in your life?
I'll say back in 2019, when my grandmother was dying, I was listening to the JID album, The Caprio 2, on repeat during that time, just going to visit her and just like my day to day. So, like, listening to that album and remembering those memories. And then he was actually able to perform at my school. So it kind of came like full circle that year. So I would say it like that.
So, you said you started filming in 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, how'd you get into podcasting? Why don't you tell us a little bit of how you got into it? What made you decide to go? Hey, this is what I want to do.
So after I graduated college in 2019, so after I finished, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my life. And at the time, I was still heavily into graphic design. So I thought about that podcast as being a way to showcase my designs. With the original format was me interviewing people about what would their origin story be, and then animating the origin story. But then I changed it to fit more of a freeform style, which is fits me better, where I can kind of make the rules as I see fit.
It's kind of what I do initially. I mean, it really is. So, is there a certain song on that album that you mentioned that touched you the most?
Let me go to the checklist again, but I remember the first time I ever heard JID was his song with J Cole. I'm blinking on the name right now. That's the first time I ever heard of it. The checklist right now, but it was mostly I'll just say that's like one of the few times I listened to the whole album just walking. The song Off These with J. Cole. And then say that's number one. Then Tide with Six Black and Off the Zoinks. I'll say those three songs because like they have high energy with Off the Zoinks. And then Tide with Six Black.
Right on. So, where are you from?
Brooklyn, New York. And I'll say with like music, it kind of like I really started listening to music when I was in eighth grade when I got my first like BlackBerry, like before smartphones came out, and I started listening to music heavily. Cause before I would just like hear songs, but then eighth grade is when I first started like listening, and then recently I started listening to more albums.
Right on. See, for me, it started the good old Walkman days. Uh, so for me, I also deal with depression, anxiety, that kind of stuff. Um, is there anything mentally that you deal with that music has just been your saving grace for?
I'll say not like to that extent of like depression or anything like that, but when I use music to help me feel the emotions I want to feel. So if I need to have a if I want to feel energized, I'll listen to a song that has hype energy. So it helps me like not stay in those mindsets of just being sad and just thinking about the worst. It's like All right, I'm not feeling well right now. So like one song I'll put on is like Jay Z's public service announcement (PSA) because that's like my favorite song and it gets me into that braggadocious mindset of like I can do this, I'm going to do this. Like I said, music, and then sometimes I tried to listen to music to fit the mood they fitting, but it didn't really do anything for me. It kind of just heard the song and it didn't like change my emotions or mood or anything like that.
Right on. And that's the thing about music. It's such a great tool, and it affects you differently every time you hear a song. It really does. Like what you hear 2 weeks down the road, it may not be the same thing you hear 5 years down the road. For me, like mine was always been, uh, what hurts the most. I love that song. I've from day one by Rascal Flatts. Always loved that song. But then I went through my divorce 2.5 years ago, and it hit different. So it's like, and it just goes to show that the way you heal through music, music in itself is therapeutic.
Definitely, as I got older, listen to songs I used to listen to before. I can, with experience now, I can understand more lyrics and see when things, what the artist meant. I remember one time I was watching 30 for 30 about the Magic and how Penny and Shaq broke up, and then just randomly the song "Bless" popped in my head because when Big Sean said it's like Pack and She got back together, and I was like, oh, that's what he meant. That was hilarious.
Yeah. So I'm taking a second and pulling up your because I know you have some things you like to talk about, and I thought I had it pulled up but I can't find it. So give me just a second. Sorry,
Hmm.
because I want to kind of hit on some of the points you're ready to talk about. So when you're creating something, and I'm going to word your questions a little different, just because you got to make everything your own, no matter what you do. So when you're creating something, what process do you use for that?
Originally, it's mostly like trying to solve the problem because I really got heavy into graphic design in college doing flyers and different animations for different clubs and people on campus and my minor in the arts. So at that time, it was mainly like, okay, so what is this event about and how do I solve it in a way of like, how can I convey the information? And then um, I was trying to, and in that process, I can't explain what I see in my head, but I can feel it. Like like I have a feeling of what it's supposed to look like, and then sometimes I can get there, sometimes I can't. But in that process, it's a lot of times I get to sit stuck because I'm trying to force the feeling and not just let it come naturally. So with that, sometimes I would restart, just like okay, let me try a different idea and see where that goes, or take a break and then talk to people. Recently, I've been trying to use more inspiration to start the process. Cause a lot of times I try to like just figure out my own in my head, but then there's only so many stories you can tell, and it's not everything's been done, but like you have to remix everything that's already been done. You be it easy on launching pad. So with that, recently I've been using more of just inspiration. Like when I made my 25th birthday animation with all the different pictures of me throughout the years, it's inspired by like the different pictures of when people would show like a character throughout the different years and how their appearances change. And that's my own process.
Right on. And I mean, like, you definitely make it your own. And that's what's the important part is you got to be able to, no matter what you do, you got to be able to make it your own. I mean, and that's the thing about music, writing, creating a podcast like you and I do, it's not necessarily, about all being together. Sometimes it's okay being raw. And that's what I've had to realize is there's more realness in the being the raw and the struggles of the rawness than there is sugarcoating it and be like, everything's great, blah, blah, blah. You know, uh, life is great. You know, people see you, they see me, they see other artists, podcasters, painters, whatever they are, and they put them up on a pedestal. I mean, and that's where this thing comes from. Is that I want people to know people that are in the industry, whether it's as an artist or performer or whatever it is, they put their pants on it the same way as we do, one leg at a time, you know. And sometimes society has idolized, and it's sad. It really is. And then one mistake, and that artist is done for. And it's sad. It almost needs to be a more forgiving society. It really does.
On that same note, I was watching a TikTok and somebody in the early 20s talking about how he was watching the reposts of young NBA stars and how they all pretty much just regular people. They repost the same things that he would repost or people in his age group, and nothing's really different besides just the skill set.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. As people think, just because I'm Wild Willie and I have a podcast on YouTube, that I'm going to be different than them, or Zeke. Just because you have a podcast, don't mean I believe in helping people. I try to use my business. Like I said, I have a DJ business, and I try to use it to give back to the community. We gotta look out for everybody. I mean, as a society, we need to pull together, and music is a big part of that. You do a lot of I do a lot of festivals, and you just see the people that rally together for these festivals. And if we could do that with music and bring people back to their roots, imagine where we'd be at. I know.
It depends and take time.
Oh yeah, it's got to take time, and we've got to get out of our own way.
So you got into DJing. So what kind of DJing do you do?
I actually don't do the turntable. I use a laptop. I have music. I have a sound effect box that I use my sound effect box, and I make it fun. I'm a people person. I naturally have I have an energy. That's actually where Wild Willie came from. One of the guys I do karaoke a lot too. I run karaoke as well, and people are like, man, you have an amazing energy. It's so wild. That should be your DJ name. I was like, what, wildness? No, Wild Willie. So then I just kind of ran with it. I've actually only had my podcast about 2 months. So my podcast is a fairly new podcast. It really is. I joined up with the Scene Project. They have a network, and I went from 2 weeks ago having under 1,000 views up to when I checked it this morning, I'm at over 10,000 views on my YouTube. So I mean, no matter what you're doing, you got to believe in yourself. Whether you're a podcaster, an artist, or whatever it is. So, where has been an area in your life that you have struggled with doing something because of the lack of belief?
Lack of belief. I'll say finding a career because I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do and how I want to do it because it's that balance of doing what you like but still getting paid, or do you want to do work for the money but you're not happy? And at different points in your life, different points in my life, it's been which one do I really want to do first? Because I've done the work and not happy, and physically I got sick because of just the emotional pressure, and so trying to avoid that has kind of been something. But also just understanding that I have to pick and choose what I want to give up because nothing's gonna be 100%, and had to take care of myself. So that's kind of
Exactly.
say, yeah,
We got to be a little selfish. I hate to say it, but to a point, you got to be a little bit selfish. You got to take care of yourself. You can't help others if you're not taking care of yourself. Um, I did it too. I worked 75 hours a week. I focused on my career, on my job. I was miserable. Um, Now I work part time as a home health worker. Um, I run my DJ business on the weekends, and then I do my podcasting now. So I mean, I have a lot going on, but I'm able to. If my DJing and stuff don't take off, I have enough. I'm comfortable. I'm not gonna say I'm rich beyond means. I'm not saying that. And sometimes it's not about the material things. You need to be happy just being where you're at. You may not be where Joe Blow down the street is, but he may have been in his journey for 20 years when you're 5 years into your journey. And, people don't always look at it that way.
Just trying to I'm always reminding myself to not focus on the end goal and just get into the next step, because even though if I get there, it's still you spend a lot of time in the process compared to the end goal. Cause I remember like in school, somebody put a post on Facebook like you spend this amount of hours just for a handshake and a piece of paper, and I was like, "You're right." So that kind of put me into like new perspective of like graduation is only 2 hours compared to the 4 years of college.
Yep.
Trying to make sure I have as much fun as I have in the process of doing anything I can do compared to just focus on finishing.
You are exactly right. I mean, you got to live in the moment, and everybody lives. We are our biggest critics as people in a career, no matter your career, whether you're a construction worker, lumberjack, whatever it is. We are our biggest critic because a lot of people live in them what ifs. What if tomorrow I lose everything? Whatever your what ifs are. That's probably been one of my biggest things for my anxiety and depression is I had to learn how to live in the moment. You know, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about yesterday. Uh, you got to cherish the moments where you're in. You got to cherish the moments you're in because you're never going to have the same moment or the same opportunity.
It's always like if I do, always trying to make sure I do something because you never know when it may or may not happen again. Because like last year, I played fighting games also competitively. The Red Bull, they had this tournament called Kumite for Street Fighter, and last year was in New York. And I was like, I'm so happy I started playing before Red Bull was in New York, so I got the chance to go, and I didn't miss it because this year it was in France. So like just that opportunity of just having that experience, you never know can happen.
Oh yeah, you are right. I mean, you got to take the bull by the horn, so to speak. Whatever you're going to do, whether it's podcasting, whatever. I'm using podcasting because both me and you are podcasters. You got to believe in yourself. You got to just do it. Don't be one of them people that. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with getting your thoughts together and actually figure out if it's really what you want to really do, and then just do it. I mean, if you're willing to dedicate your time to it, then just do it. Everything else will work itself out.
That's what I gotta remind myself sometimes because I'm not planning. Also, like to plan things just to see what I'm gonna do so I can do it. But then I gotta remind myself to just do it. Like when I started the podcast, my friend was asking me, he's one of my guests, like when I'm gonna start doing it. I didn't really have an answer, so then I just that night I just looked at the calendar like pick this day in January. That's when I'm gonna start releasing episodes. So let me get the episodes recorded by then, and I just started doing it. And then I had the idea, but then I phoned it off the time.
See, and that's where when I had mine, I, I kind of just went for it. A friend of mine told me just go for it, and I did that. I mean, I had the ideal on a weekend. Well, okay, I've had the ideal for a long time, but then I brought it up to him on the weekend at a festival we were at, and that Tuesday he called me and says, "I think you should do it. You have a really good potential for it because you are a people's person. And you got to have compassion for whoever you're interviewing. I learned that with the DJing and the sound. I have set up for a lot of bands that I don't necessarily care for because it's not my kind of music. But you know what? It's helping them put their stuff out there. I get to do what I enjoy doing, and that's running sounds. So who cares about the little details as long as the whole picture's coming together? I mean, don't worry about what's around the corner. I mean, and I'm guilty of it. I'm not saying sit here and talk about like I don't worry at all. I got everything together. That's not me. It's okay to worry, but don't let the worry weigh you down. So, is there any, we had kind of touched base on this earlier, but can you tell everybody again where they can find your podcast at?
You can find it at letsgetapodcast.com. You can find it on YouTube on the Let's Get a Podcast. Same thing with all major podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, and you can also find the social media on the Let's Get a Podcast or Let's Get a Pod. Let's Get a Pod on Instagram, Let's Get a Podcast on TikTok and X, yeah, and Blue Sky, all the
So
platforms.
that's where I got to get better, and I'm being honest. I have Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. That's about. I mean, and I have it on Apple and Spotify. But social wise, that's where I need to improve because
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what I'm doing right now, getting clips of all the old episodes, and then I can bulk put them out, so then they could just be shown in front of people over and over again. And that repetition is what gets people hooked on. That gets me hooked on a lot of things. Like I see something once, interesting, then I see it again and again and again because of the algorithm. So I'm gonna try to use it my way.
let's see. Like I said, I joined up the Scene Project with Bubba Starts, and you got to find a group of people. If you're not part of a network, I honestly would say join a network. Just because you got someone there in your corner at all times, and don't find a network that wants to change you. You had an ideal for your show. Be that show. Don't let anyone change it. I mean, and before I found the network I'm on now, the Scene Project, you can find it on YouTube. And I was like, all right, I talked to one and they're like, well, you got to film this way on this time. Camera has to be positioned a certain way, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's not going to happen because of what I want. If I take and let someone tell me how I got to sit, how I got to move, it's not going to be real. Because for one, when you go to, and no matter what you're doing, if someone tells you how to run something, and I deal with it a lot when I DJ, I bet you're more stiff. You're like you don't get into it as much if versus when you come in and you have that free creativity that you can do with this whatever you want, and joining a network is going to help you if you're, and this is my advice to someone out there that wanting to start a podcast, get it out there, reach out, find a podcast network. There's all sorts of networks on there. I'm not saying the network I'm on is the best network. I think it is in my opinion, but what's best for me may not be best for you. But find a network and let them help you grow. Whether it's there's several good networks for podcasting. There really is. And I could sit here and name them, but I'd be here all day. So believe in yourself. If you want to start a podcast, believe in yourself. Believe in the ideal that you have. But on the flip side of that, research that ideal and make sure it's not being the same done you want to, not being done the same way you want to do it. Because if you get too many shows out there doing everything the same exact way, it ain't going to flourish the same as if you make it your own. So just make sure that you find something that, is relatable. Music is very relatable for a lot of people, no matter you're a podcaster, a clerk at Walmart, no matter what your profession is, music has had some effect on your life. And that's like when you asked me before we started if it was okay that you didn't do music and you were just a podcaster. You know what? Absolutely. You'll be the fourth podcaster that I've interviewed. And I don't mind. For one, music hasn't affected you one way or another. Whether it's you talking to artists about their music or whatever it is. So that's just my kind of tidbit. You have any final thoughts or anything that you want to express? I mean,
I'll just say what I'm working on for myself is just going back to just doing it and stop being scared. And then my advice to the people is try something. If you don't like it, that's okay. You have you have a lot of time to keep doing, try something. Sometimes It might be just a rough patch, or sometimes you might have to see it's not for you. Like I say, just try it, try again, try something else, and live in the moment.
Absolutely. And stick with it. Don't just say I done 2 episodes and it ain't working. Stick with it. I mean, I did. I have 9 episodes. Well, one will be released today, so I have 9 episodes out that are actually out to the public. I have a lot more than that recorded, but um, they get they come easier. They really do. After you've done it, it's the repetitiveness of it. There's a saying out there. It's can't remember who it's by to save my life. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it's one person with a belief is equal to a force of 99 with just an interest. It's one of my favorite quotes, and for the life of me, I cannot remember who said it. I think that's gonna drive me crazy. And the moment we get off here, I'm gonna remember. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember who said it. I mean, and I'm not gonna dwell on it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
What we were just talking about. You can't live in that. It's okay not to know. But Zeke, I want to thank you, buddy, for coming on and being part of this, taking your time out of your day and interviewing with me.
Again, thank you for inviting me. Sorry, I had a lot of questions. I just wanted to make sure I didn't want to ruin your flow and anything like that.
No, you're good. That's why I said I don't. I, I'm probably easy to get along. I mean, don't ask my ex-wife, but I'm easy to get along with. Um, but I like the rawness of it. That's what I want. I mean, I'd rather have that rawness than you be fake.
Yeah.
So I need you to hang around for a minute after we
Hmm.
get done recording. But I want to thank everybody for watching this episode. Stay tuned for our next episode of Soul Impact. But before I do, I got to do this. I want to thank Kingdom Creation. Uh, his name's Bill. He made he made my shirt. He's real good. He ships. You can get a hold of him at 573-680-0085. If you're looking for some custom shirts, hoodies, look him up. He ships. You got to pay the shipping, but he's a phenomenal. So again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Y'all have a good day, and until next time, y'all don't give up on yourself.